All right, we are back. I have another expert with us today. Casey is going to school us on how to actually use LinkedIn to make money and how to do it in a way that is leveraged, automated, and doesn't come across as a sleazy spammer. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm sure I'm going to learn some things as well. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you, Alicia. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's pick your brain. Every once in a while, I come across somebody they're like, "Ooh, picking brain. I don't know how I feel about that statement." But for the most part, we all get that that means that there's good stuff that you know, and we want you to share that with us. So that's my goal for this training. Let's start by talking a little bit about how the heck did you become an expert at LinkedIn?
Yeah, I didn't go to grad school for LinkedIn. I'll tell you that much. I went to grad school and have a background in data science and kind of economics. But I realized short after graduating that those skills or that knowledge kind of led me into careers that I didn't really enjoy, like consulting and nonprofit organizations, which I enjoy, but doesn't pay the bills. Um, so my brother invited me to join his real estate practice about 10 years ago. And it was my first kind of opportunity to delve into the world of entrepreneurship because everyone is independent contractors. You run your own business, you generate your own leads. Well, except for Sean, right? My brother. He did not really generate leads. He was strictly a referral agent, meaning, I mean, he's one of the top agents in Ventura, but he got all of his business from from referrals giving coming out to him. When I got into his business, I was like, how do I get business? How do I get leads? I don't get referrals. He goes, door knock, cold call. I was like, no, that's not me. I can't do that. Um, and then I looked into other ways that realtors generate business or generate leads. And well, I first stumbled upon email marketing and we started and I got my foot in the door from cold email outreach. But that quickly led to LinkedIn as the primary source that we would use to generate business and generate an onslaught of incoming inbound leads. Um, I mean, I can tell you the story about how like that was like a big aha moment. Um, so we originally were doing what we call home buying presentations or like lunch and learns at local companies. So Procore, Logic Monitor in Santa Barbara, California. And it was great, but only about 20% of the employees showed up to those presentations. And so I had the idea afterwards, I'm like, well, gosh, we are offering this credit or this offer to the entire company, but only 20% know about it. So I went then onto LinkedIn and I started to connect with every single employee of that company. And then I would say, hey, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Not sure if you made it to the presentation, but everyone at Procore gets 20% of our or 10% of our commission as a credit towards closing costs if you let us help you buy or sell a home. And we got like 3 or 4 deals out of that one outreach via LinkedIn because it came across as relationship building. We already have our foot in the door. We were invited into their business and we're offering them value. And so there's a certain technique that you can use with LinkedIn that really yields high results. And it's not coming across spammy, I'll tell you that much. It's building that relationship.
Let's dive deeper into that. The story that you shared is it's very educational in and of itself because you have a lot of nuggets in there. You're kind of, you're giving people a little bit of a formula, a strategy, a framework, if you will. But I want to go a little bit deeper
Mm.
because there are business owners listening to this who they're not in real estate, they're in other types of businesses. Maybe they are a service-based business, maybe they have a brick and mortar business, and they're trying to connect the dots. They're thinking, well, I haven't been invited into anybody's business, and I don't have this promotion that I can send to everybody. So I want to open people up to how this can fit in their business. And I would imagine that just like anything, certain platforms are going to be more viable for certain types of businesses. Definitely, we're not going to pretend that there is one magic bullet, you know, one magic pill that just solves the world's problems. Um, but let's get a little bit deeper into this because you've created something to help business owners with their LinkedIn outreach. And I want to talk about how you do that and how you do it in a way that isn't coming across as spammy because a lot of us every single day we're getting, you can tell, you can feel it. You can tell when it's so canned and you don't even give it a second look. So,
Yeah, I know it's interesting because you have to kind of take a similar approach as you would in real life, but you're doing it digitally. I mean, I couldn't stand networking events. One, because I'm an introvert, but two, I could not stand how I would have this kind of fake conversation where they ask me like what I do, like what my plans are, and then in the back of my mind thinking they're kind of trying to size me up. They want something from me. They're not valuing the relationship with me. They're asking me questions because they're treating me as a means to an end rather than an end in and of itself. And that just triggers all kinds of things in my head. And so I use a very kind of humanistic approach to my kind of relationship building technique on LinkedIn because I understand that no one likes being treated as a means to an end. If you send someone a message and you immediately go to your call to action or send them a link right in front of their face, that does not make you look good. It drains their energy. Their response drains your energy, and it's a lose-lose, right? But there is a framework and a technique that you can build genuine relationships on LinkedIn if you do it correctly. And it also happens to be kind of on trend with what, marketing and like marketing technology is currently experiencing in terms of the transition from lead generation, which is, here's a lead magnet, a link, put in your information, and I'll send you what I offered you, to what's called demand generation. Demand generation is you don't have any big call to action, but rather you're just providing value, more and more value. You can talk about who you are, your experience, maybe talk about why you're reaching out to them. But then you can want to just say, oh, also, I thought you might like this, and have that piece, this piece, be actual value that they would want, right? And so that kind of approach of demand generation, relationship building, it applies across all businesses, all sectors, all industries, B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. But people like dealing with business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so what better way or what better platform than LinkedIn? Because you can build the trust by having an extensive network of, tons of mutual connections. They'll like you because you're just providing value. You're not coming across as spammy, and they know you because, hey, you're getting to know them on LinkedIn, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of the approach that I take, and it's worked extremely well. I mean, you can find, your alumni, for example, people that went to your same university. As long as you have some kind of idea or some thought as to like how you can kind of build that rapport naturally, and then simply just provide that piece of value and don't ask for a thing, that's like the key secret.
how then can that be automated? Let's talk about that because for some people, they're still stuck in this, "Oh, I got to research every single lead and find some type of um, commonality that I can use to create rapport. And I've got to type out this message, this custom message, and then I got to find something of value to offer them for free. And so people are probably tripping over some of this. Now, some people, the light bulb's going off. They're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? That's brilliant. But let's talk about how this can be automated so that it's more scalable.
Yeah. So authentic automation, right? So you're being as authentic as possible, as early as possible. And you really want to put some thought into it. So this is where I think people kind of get stuck, and which is where, I could help, but there is a lot of decision fatigue and creative fatigue at the moment that requires your most attention and your most like effort. And that's when you're like trying to determine, yeah, who your audience is, right? And there's this quote that I always talk about, but it's the whole Abraham Lincoln quote. If you're given 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'll use the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. Like if you do more work on the front end to determine who your audience is, put yourselves in their shoes and think about what they might want, then the authentic automation component comes across way easier, right? And so, tactically, um, my audience is in mostly sales, so sales and lead generation, B2B business owners, just entrepreneurs in general. And I know that a lot of them, like myself, like every entrepreneur, they're strapped for time. Like they might have some money, but they're always strapped for time. And so, me knowing that, I create these assets that will save them time. So, I have a whole list of AI prompts that I can provide people that would help them enhance their LinkedIn profile. And so, if you give them something they actually want that will eventually save them time, then you can find your audience, put them into an automated sequence, just give them that, and then you would be automatically generating authentic relationships from that by
Awesome.
using a software.
Let's talk a little bit about the software. So now we've created some context. We've
Mhm,
shared some of the kind of basic best practices, the things that work the most effectively, that cause you to be, in the words of one of my early mentors, Dan Kennedy. He talks about you want to be a welcome guest, right?
mhm,
So most advertising, most marketing, those networking, awkward networking events, you're an unwelcome pest.
mhm,
We don't want people to immediately go into resistance the moment that we make contact with them. So
mhm.
now we've covered how you can make yourself more of that welcome guest on LinkedIn. Let's talk about the software. Let's talk about the practical, tactical, techie side of how business owners can leverage this to actually start to get those high quality leads, we'll call them, those prospects, those new clients, those new customers flowing into their business.
Sure, fair enough. So you've done all the pre-work and now you're ready to scale, right? So you've enhanced your LinkedIn profile, started to engage with people on LinkedIn, you've learned the system, you have Sales Navigator, you've increased your social selling index score, you've done all of the prerequisites, and now you're saying, okay, I want to scale. At that point, that's when I recommend automation tools. And there are a plethora of them online. And so some of them are Chrome extensions, some of them are cloud-based. You can just Google search LinkedIn automation tool and you will find dozens of them. Ours is cloud-based and very effective. And the and I don't really want to mention names unless you want me to, but the reason why is because you have to be very careful with how you use these tools, right? And so, and our service is a done for you service. And so we, we will sync your account. We will make sure your profile is good enough. You're verified by, LinkedIn self-verification process. Um, we will take all of the precautionary steps so that your account stays safe. And so, but once you have access to and you're comfortable with an automation tool, then all your pre-work kind of comes into play. Then you go to Sales Navigator, you find your ideal audience that you've already predetermined. You create these customized scripts that speak directly to them. And then you just put that search of people into this automated campaign and hit go. And then it just runs throughout a certain amount of time that you can like put, barriers to that or kind of parameters to that, and leads to start coming in, right? And the responses, when you do it correctly, are good. So like I went to like understand this because I know this is about limiting beliefs, but if you do it correctly, you will get positive replies. Like not people that are like, you're such a spammer, none of that. You get people like, oh, thank you so much. I've been looking for that. Or I've never thought about it that way. That's so interesting. Something that is positive. I don't know. So I can go into that more if you want, but I'm going to kind of see what you thought about the automation side.
I think that this is a great time to touch on a little bit of those resistant beliefs that people have.
Mhm.
Now, on the one hand, you've got the group of people who's like, spray and pray. I don't care. I'm not emotionally attached to this. It's go time, right? Plug it in, set it up, let's go. But there's a lot of people who have the other stuff going on internally. Uh, they are thinking, is this going to ruin my reputation? Are people going to, even though Casey, you say that they're going to be happy that I'm contacting them, because it's automated, what if they find out it's automated? Are they gonna be offended? What if we've all seen, I've seen some of the most ridiculous comments on posts because of automation. It's like everybody's like, get this, it's going to be great for your social media presence. And then their profile is commenting some completely dumb statement in response to a post that indicates that it was not read at all and was responded to by AI. And you do lose you lose credibility. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about some of the common, I'm not even going to call them objections. It's
Mhm.
really an inner resistance, a kind of defense mechanism that says, I don't feel safe
Mhm.
automating my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. So speaking from experience, I have been there. I, I've, and let me kind of just benchmark it, or not benchmark, but like kind of let me give it a ceiling because I think you need to have parameters to your expectations and perceptions. I started off trying to generate leads using cold email out of desperation. I was poor, living in a very expensive city, and I needed money. And so I'm like, I don't, at this point, like I'm desperate. I don't care about my reputation. I don't have a reputation. I'm gonna spam the entire city and see if I can get any sales. And through cold email, you got to be especially careful, first of all, if you ever try that too, because the ability to build that rapport is goes down the drain. They don't see your face, they don't see your connection, they don't see who you are. And so some of the responses you get from that kind of outreach are very demoralizing and like paralyzing. So it's not cold email marketing. I've been through the trenches, and that's why I kind of fell upon LinkedIn as like the best platform for this because you can tailor it in a way that gets better responses. Now, to answer your question, um, there still are people, right, that despite every effort and despite all of that kind of pre-work that you've done to give them value, to target them in a way that that they would benefit from this, they are just not happy people. And and you also might target by accident a friend, a family member. I mean, I've done that where my cousin got mad at me, but hey, she was a realtor. I was trying to sell my business, my lead gen to her, and she was in San Clemente. And she got mad. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm just trying to grow my business, and this is what I'm doing now. How cool. She was like, well, take me off your list. I was like, okay. That hit me, right? Like I like her as my cousin. You will get that. Um, but it's all about evidence, right? And so what I've learned recently is that the way that I can feel good about what I do is based on or directly correlated with the amount of evidence that what I do is good. And so if 95% of the responses that I get are positive, then that 5% means less to me. So just to like, yeah, set the expectations, you will get some of those people, but what I typically do is just apologize, say, sorry, my VA didn't realize that you were the wrong audience. You can kind of make some sort of excuse. You can do something that kind of just deflects it, but really just get it out of sight, out of mind as soon as possible, and focus on the wall of positivity behind you. And that's worked really well for me. And my struggles have really made me very careful with how I script and how I approach my audience because I want to make sure that 95% of people are responding positively because that matters.
Now, you mentioned that you offer a done for you component to this automation. So I don't want to go too deep because I want people to actually reach out to you to learn more. But can you talk a little bit about how you're able to get into someone's business, so to speak, with them so they can make sure that they're getting closer to that 95% positive experience?
Yep. Yeah. So thanks to AI, I've been able to do this with much better precision. Um, Before AI, I still really enjoy just having conversations with my clients. During the onboarding process, I just go through like a series of questions. I'll go, okay, so who is your, who in your opinion is your ideal target audience? What sort of rapport building experience do you have with them? What sort of value could you offer them? And I would kind of go through and I would ask them questions about their business, about themselves, their accolades, their accomplishments. And the more I get like a profile of them, I would then kind of get an idea of how I would create a framework or a series of messages for that audience. Um, Now with AI, it's way, way more interesting, way more fun. And I'll kind of nerd out for 1 second if you give me the chance.
Of course.
I have a prompt that I use and I input it into Perplexity, which is an AI tool. And it basically is an ICP identifier. And so it will help you identify your ideal customer profile based on your website, your profile, any other information about you. And it will give you kind of like a list of who you could be targeting. So that's the first thing I do is I determine who your ICP could be. Then I run it through another prompt to say, what sort of sales navigator filters could we use to help identify this audience on LinkedIn? So then I get their ICP, I get the filters to be using. Then I go through another prompt and I say, basically, what sort of value could said company offer this ICP that they would actually value? And what kind of offer could they give them that is so good that they would feel dumb saying no? And you then kind of push those all together and you get a really, really accurate ICP, value offering, and scripting. So that's what I do now.
Awesome. Okay, this is the perfect time for me to ask you what are next steps. So for someone listening and they're thinking to themselves, "Oh my God, this is exactly what I need in my business." Where would you direct them to to learn more about working with you and the software that you offer?
So I'm a great lead generator, but I'm not the greatest marketer, right? So best is probably Facebook. Find me on LinkedIn. Though LinkedIn, make sure you put a note saying like you saw me on this show, and that way I'll know to accept it. Um, and then also just my website, which is linkybot.ai, linkybot.ai. And then I did just start a school community. So LinkedIn AI Mastery Lab. So school.com/LinkedIn AI Mastery Lab. So I'll be putting on course material, other kind of coaching stuff, and it's currently free. It won't always be free, but it's currently free.
Amazing. And we'll have links in the show notes to make it as easy as possible for everybody to connect with you. I think that you've offered a lot of tactical, practical, implementable stuff that even if someone says, okay, I'm going to DIY it for now, and I'm going to do
Mhm.
it the more manual way, that they can take some of this information and they can actually implement it. And then for those who are they they have the time situation that you referenced. They have maybe more money than time, or they just understand that this is not something that they want to develop an expertise at. uh, they can reach out to you and get your expertise to help them in their business.
Absolutely. I want to say one quick thing. I actually recommend people try this manually first. Try it before you buy it. I mean, whatever. But I recommend it for lots of reasons. I want you to start engaging with people on LinkedIn. I want you to start using the channel, using the platform to kind of build your confidence, right? And then even start doing manual messages, super personalized. I read your post on LinkedIn and I really appreciate your viewpoint on this. Try and get responses just so you can kind of start seeing that, hey, it's not that scary, right? So do it manually first. And then once you kind of get comfortable with how that process works, then I would say get to the automation stage. Um, and on the other side, automation, if you're ready, if you want the done for you service, just yeah, reach out to me. I can help you out.
Awesome. This has been great. I want to thank you so much, Casey, for being with us today.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much, Alicia. I appreciate it.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Love having these types of conversations, delivering solid value to help you grow your business. Until next time, we will see you in another video.